How did a patch of hot, muddy land, frequently flooded by two temperamental rivers, become the very blueprint for human civilization? Why did this specific, seemingly inconvenient place give birth to the wheel, writing, laws, and even the concept of time as we know it? It's one of humanity's most profound secrets, a story of ingenuity born from necessity, and it begins with mud. Imagine the world roughly 5,500 years ago. Most of humanity lived in scattered nomadic groups, tracing the ancient rhythms of the seasons and the hunt. Life was a constant, intimate dance with nature, dictated by the immediate needs of survival. But in a fertile crescent of land, nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, a region we now call Mesopotamia, roughly modern-day Iraq and parts of its neighbors, something truly extraordinary was brewing. These rivers, unlike the gentle, predictable Nile, were wild, untamed forces. They were temperamental giants, often bursting their banks unexpectedly, wreaking havoc with chaotic, devastating floods. This sounds like an insurmountable problem, doesn't it? A colossal obstacle to any stable way of life. And it was. But here's the incredible twist. It was also an unparalleled opportunity. The secret? Mud. Endless, glorious, life-giving mud. Each time those ferocious floods receded, they left behind a rich, thick blanket of nutrient-packed silt, transforming the land into an incredibly fertile paradise. But to truly harness this astonishing fertility, you couldn't just wait for the rain. You had to manage the water. You had to tame the rivers. This wasn't a job for one family or even one village. This was a challenge that demanded coordination. Massive, unprecedented coordination. And that, my friends, is where the magic truly begins. To build the intricate irrigation canals, a network of watery highways and byways designed to bring life-giving water to the fields and drain the destructive excess, people had to work together on a scale never before seen. This forced cooperation, this shared monumental task, became the crucible for larger settlements. Soon, these weren't just clusters of huts, they were sprawling, vibrant cities. Places like Uruk, and Eridu swelled with thousands of people, buzzing with an energy that must have been utterly intoxicating. These weren't just collections of homes, they were complex, living organisms with specialized roles. Farmers tilling the soil, potters crafting vessels, weavers spinning textiles, builders raising grand structures, priests mediating with the divine, and, crucially, administrators orchestrating it all. Think about it. You've now grown an abundance of barley, crafted exquisite pottery, or accumulated a surplus of goods. How do you move it? On your back? Dragging it across the unforgiving landscape? That's unbelievably inefficient. Humanity needed a logistics upgrade. Enter the wheel. Initially, it was probably used horizontally for pottery, helping shape clay with incredible speed and symmetry. But then, some genius, perhaps a very tired genius, or one simply driven by an insatiable curiosity, had a revolutionary thought. What if we turned this on its side? Suddenly, the world changed. Massive loads could be transported with an ease that must have felt like pure magic. Goods that once took days to move now took hours. Armies could march faster, extending their reach. Trade expanded exponentially, connecting distant communities. The wheel didn't just move things, it moved societies forward, fundamentally altering the economics of scale and the very fabric of daily life. It was the original logistics superpower, the foundational technology that made everything else easier, faster, and bigger. It was the accelerator pedal for civilization. With these growing cities came growing problems. Problems of scale and organization. How do you keep track of who owes what? How much grain is stored in the communal granary? Or who traded what for what? Our brains, as magnificent as they are notoriously terrible at storing vast amounts of precise data over long periods. We needed an external memory. We needed a hard drive for civilization. And thus, cuneiform was born. Imagine a busy merchant in ancient Uruk. He's just traded 50 sheep for 100 bushels of wheat. He can't trust his memory, nor can his trading partner. So he grabs a piece of wet clay, that omnipresent Mesopotamian mud, once again proving its worth, and a reed stylus. Initially, he might draw a simple picture of a sheep and some wheat. But as transactions grew more complex, these pictures evolved. They became stylized, then abstract wedges, cuneiform, meaning wedge-shaped. It wasn't invented for epic poetry or grand declarations, but for humble accounting. It was the world's first reliable data storage device, paving the way for record-keeping, laws, literature, and ultimately our accumulated knowledge. It was how humanity began to truly remember itself. With cuneiform, the ability to record and store information, complex calculations became not just possible, but essential. The Mesopotamians developed a sophisticated sexagesimal, base 60 number system. Think about that for a moment. That's why we have 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, and 360 degrees in a circle. It's a direct echo from those ancient riverbanks. They weren't just counting sheep, they were charting the heavens. By meticulously observing the stars and planets from the tops of their towering ziggurats, massive step temple towers that looked like cosmic staircases reaching for the divine, they could predict seasons, understand agricultural cycles, and even foretell astronomical events. This wasn't just abstract science, it was profoundly practical knowledge, vital for a society utterly dependent on farming and complex religious rituals. They were the world's first true data scientists, transforming cosmic patterns into earthly schedules. They saw the universe as a grand clock, and they learned to read its gears. As these super cities grew, so did the potential for conflict. Who owned that field? What happens if someone steals your ox? When thousands of people live in close proximity, you can't just rely on local customs, the strongest guy's judgment, or the whim of a leader. You need rules, written rules, rules that apply to everyone. Enter Hammurabi, a Babylonian king who, around 1754 BCE, commissioned what would become one of the most famous legal documents in history. Carved onto a towering stone stele, this code wasn't just a collection of laws whispered from on high. It was a public declaration of standardized justice. An eye for an eye, yes, but also incredibly detailed laws on property rights, trade, marriage, and even medical malpractice. It wasn't perfect, and its application could be harsh, but it was a monumental step towards the concept of predictable justice, where laws were written down and applied to all, at least in theory, rather than being arbitrary or based on personal whim. It was the first widely distributed legal software update for society. Imagine a world without cities, without a reliable way to write down agreements, stories, or scientific discoveries, without a wheel to move goods efficiently, without standardized laws to keep order. That's the world before Mesopotamia truly flourished. This isn't just ancient history, it's the very foundation of almost everything we take for granted. Our calendar, our mathematical systems, our legal frameworks, the very idea of a public library, and the complex organization of our modern cities all have their deep, enduring roots in those muddy riverbanks. Mesopotamia wasn't just a place where things happened. It was a dynamic, ambitious laboratory where humanity experimented with new ways of living, governing, and understanding the universe. It was a testament to our boundless ingenuity, our relentless drive to organize chaos, and our unique ability to build something truly astonishing out of nothing more than mud, water, and an insatiable curiosity. And from that humble beginning, the blueprint for civilization was cast, shaping our world in ways that echo to this very day. A whispered secret, finally revealed.
Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more history daily.